Hello, hello. Thank you for coming and checking out my channel. If this is your first time here, welcome. If you are a repeat offender, then I appreciate you very much for coming back. And today I have kind of a thrown together video. This is going to be my November mid-month check-in, but it's also a bit of a mashup with a read it or delete it vlog. I have a couple of kind of exciting things, I think, that came out of the read it or delete it this time around. But I'll get into that. So this one, I'll be showing a couple of those books. I've also been mood listening to some audiobooks because I discovered I need audiobooks for other aspects of my life, so it can't all be Kindle anymore. I don't know how we got along without audiobooks. There was a time when there was no such thing, and I don't know how I survived that. But anyway, so I wanted to talk a little bit about at the end of the last vlog, I said that I was reading kind of a novella called Loss. And I'll try to remember to put who it's by if I can find it, because I deleted it off my Kindle. I said I wasn't going to delete it, that I probably would read it. I was about 50-something% the way through when I got rid of it. The writing wasn't bad, and so the writing wasn't bad, and it was kind of short, so that's why I said I probably wasn't going to delete it. I was probably going to read it through, and had I, it would have been the first of my read it or delete it books to read all the way through. But it took a turn, and I didn't enjoy it. Now, the book was a story about a woman who she doesn't have much family of her own, so she's kind of only got her husband's family, and that's kind of some members of her husband's family she gets along with better than others, just like you do. And they get into a car accident. She was driving and she lived and he didn't. And so it was supposed to be a story about how she dealt with that loss. It turned into a little bit of a ghost story at some point, and then there's a lot of drinking as a coping mechanism, which, okay, I mean, that happens. People drink as a coping mechanism. I have drunk quite a lot as a coping mechanism to things before. So, but she was, I don't know, she started drinking and driving as a coping mechanism, not the best. And the husband's family, there was kind of an inkling that the husband's family was not going to be as accepting of her after her link to them was dead. But it kind of became not good. It wasn't great. And because it was a short story, you didn't really get very much into the characters. You did a little bit her and somewhat her and her husband, but not why there's a disconnect between her and her mother-in-law, and not a lot there. So when the mother-in-law suddenly turned nasty, I was more like, I don't know, I just didn't want to read it anymore. I still count it as a book read because I read more than 50% of it, but I didn't like it, so I deleted it. So as you probably just saw from, I hope that I cut in the next book that I drew, it was unfortunate. It was called the Werewolf Society box set. Box set that I probably got for free or 99 cents. So that probably should tell you something. I mean, no one's selling a box set of Lord of the Rings for 99 cents, you know? But I don't know. I forgot my little pieces of paper that I drew out. So I can't tell you when I downloaded this, but and I can't tell you why I downloaded it either. But it was not good. It was a really bad retelling, whatever of Underworld. It's vampires and werewolves, and they're at war with one another. And one of them's a hybrid vampire werewolf, and there's witches. And at one point, I mean, the main character is just like, they're at this summit of some sort, and she does a little bit of, they don't even really introduce the characters. It's just like, yeah, I'm here at this summit and I'm missing my pendant. Oh, there's my ex-lover. I'm going to go grab the pendant that's off his chest because that's mine. Goes, grabs the pendant, says, this is my pendant. And he says, I'm just looking out for your witchy ass. Really? So cringe. So bad. And I keep reading because I'm trying to not DNF these things at 1%. So I keep reading a bit, and it's just, it reads like really bad fan fiction. Don't read into that. I love fan fiction. I was a fan fiction writer myself at one point, but there is such a thing as bad fan fiction, you know? And this was not good. It felt like bad fan fiction of Underworld. And it was, you know, the main character came across, it was all nonstop action, the parts that I read. No character development or anything, so I didn't care about any of these characters. So when they tried to kill one off, like, right away, I didn't care. And so she runs to the character that's basically dead and uses her witch powers to heal the character, who immediately comes to life and springs up and runs off to go help her lover who's in a fight with werewolves. And the writer made a point of saying that the witch, you know, was drained of her powers and drained of her energy because of the use of power. But then next paragraph, she springs up and she goes running towards whatever also. It wasn't good. So I DNF'd it. I don't even know. I think I got 8% the way through. But the Kindle said that I was only going, on average, it took people about 3.5 hours to read this. 3.5 hours for a box set. And I think it said that there was like 3 or 4 books in there. These were not books. These were short stories. I mean, you can't have 3.5 hours to read 4 books. That's not reasonable. So it's a short story and a short story collection. I don't know, but it wasn't my favorite. I would not recommend. So then the next book that I drew was called The Shadow Queen by C.J. Redwine. And this is a young adult retelling of Snow White, and I loved it.
Taking another book to read.
Yeah, I'm taking the audio out of this one.
Find a book. Hopefully it's not Duke, because I'm picking another book to read.
The Shadow Queen. Hello. Okay, this is more like it. So the next book that I drew is called The Shadow Queen, and it's written by C.J. Redwine. And I bought it back in 2016, probably because it looked like it's a fantasy retelling of Snow White. So I am so happy I finally drew something out of the bucket that I am enjoying, not just enduring, but enjoying. So far, so good. I'm on chapter 5 now. It looks like this is a part of a 4-part series. So I may just continue on with this series, probably not this month, but after I finish this, I may add this to the series that I'm working on. And I'm trying to angle this in such a way that my glasses don't glare too badly. Anyway, I might add this to the series that I'm working on, and I'm so glad that I actually pulled something out of there that seems worth it. Yay. Yay, I finally found a book from the Read It or Delete It challenge that I did not delete. It's the first in a series of 4 books, and I might actually go on to read one or more of the next books eventually. But it was so good. Now, last video, I was talking about YA, and I was kind of being disparaging in a sense because I said this book reads like YA, and then I made a point of saying I actually really like YA. I like young adult books. I just like there's just a specific kind of young adult book I guess I like. Something a little more like The Hunger Games or something. And this was that. So this was the kind of YA book that I enjoyed. It was, like I said, a retelling of Snow White. So you know some of the elements. There's going to be a huntsman. There's going to be a wicked stepmother type character. You know, there's certain elements of Snow White you know they're going to hit on. But there was enough different about it that I wasn't reading Snow White, basically. I enjoyed that. It actually was a fully fleshed out magical world, and with different fantasy races, ogres, and I forget what they call them, draconic, the people who can turn into dragons. And it was really a fun read. And even though it was a retelling, like I said, it wasn't a very predictable book. It was predictable in the sense that, I mean, I knew that the huntsman wasn't going to kill Snow White because that in Snow White, that's the way it works. But I didn't know how it was going to come about in this book. So I really enjoyed it. I would really recommend it. So I am happy to say the next book that I got was it's a book called A Royal Guide to Monster Slaying, and it's by Kelly Armstrong. I can tell you why I downloaded this one. It's because it's by Kelly Armstrong, and she's by no means my favorite writer in the world or anything, but she's a writer I know and have consistently liked her books in one way or another. Now, I used to read a lot of her paranormal romance type books, and I liked them. They were okay. And then more recently, and I think I reviewed on this channel, I read The City of the Lost. Something like that. Gosh, I'll put up the title on the screen because I don't now remember which one. Something like that. And it was a murder mystery, and I really enjoyed the characters. I really enjoyed how she was able to write something drastically different than the genre I had read her in. And I had read several books in her paranormal series that she had. I think I read like 5 or 6 of her books in that series. So I was used to one thing, and so I picked up this other one because I thought it was going to be interesting to see a non paranormal book from her, and I really enjoyed it. And so this one, A Royal Guide to Monster Slaying, I downloaded it because it's Kelly Armstrong. But it's a middle grade book. It's a book that I'm hoping that I can share with my daughter, because I really think that it's, she's the intended audience for this book. And it's so far pretty good. The story is about, in this kingdom, the firstborn child will become the next king or queen, and the next born child will become the royal monster slayer, monster hunter. And we're following a character named Rowan and her twin, Reed. And Rowan was born 2 minutes earlier than Reed. So she's going to be queen, but she wants to be the monster slayer so bad. She would much prefer that. She doesn't like state politics stuff. She finds the dinners and all that to be super boring. She wants to go out there and hunt griffins and hunt manticores and do all the things. And her brother, while perfectly willing to take on the responsibility that's been put onto him as a monster slayer, he would probably be better suited as the king as opposed to Rowan as the queen. So, but that's just not how it's done. So that's the premise of this book. So far, I'm about a third the way through it now, and I like it very much. So I will probably finish this one to the end and be glad that I got a couple of books out of this Read It or Delete It challenge that I really enjoyed. So as I mentioned, I think in the first vlog, I discovered I can't do straight Kindle, no audiobooks. There are too many ways in which audiobooks fit my lifestyle, and reading a physical book or a Kindle book does not. I don't often take a chunk of time just to sit down and read. Sitting and reading a physical book or a Kindle book, because I don't read physical anymore, it takes a certain amount of focus that I don't always feel like I have. But I've been working on doing it. I've been working on just sitting with my little pup and the fireplace show on Netflix going and reading, and I've been enjoying that. It's kind of nice to try to focus on those kinds of things, and so that's been really nice. But there are times when I've needed a audiobook. So I have picked up so far 3 audiobooks this month that I have read or I'm in the process of reading. The first one was Vampire Academy. And I read Vampire Academy because I saw it with my niece ages ago, and she said I like it, and but the book was better, so I decided to try the book. And it was okay, but it was one of those YA books that focused a little bit more on, this guy is cute and I want to date that guy, and that guy wants to date me, but I'm not sure I want to date him, and my best friend this, and the popular girl's that, and there's a little more of that with vampires thrown in. Next I read Fantastic Land, and it was fantastic. It was great. I really thought there was going to be a little more body horror to it than there was, and there wasn't that much, but that was okay. Because what I ended up getting, when I thought I was picking up a horror book, and it was, but I thought I was picking up something a little more slasher. But what I got was more of a psychological horror. It's really good. I got it because I have the Audible Plus membership. In the US, it was free. So if you are in the US and you have that membership, you might check it out. It might be free to you as well. And it was really, really good. Fantastic Land was a book about a fictional amusement park that got hit with a hurricane. And there were 300 plus people still in the park, and they were kind of cut off from the rest of society for about 5 weeks or so until they were rescued. They had plenty of food and water and such, but they very quickly went feral. They didn't have the internet to entertain them. They didn't have their phones, no social media. They were bored kids with not a whole lot else to do and needing some leadership, and in some senses the wrong people stepped up to lead and bad things happened. So it was very good. It was kind of fun to just listen to everyone unspool. It was just, and I really liked the format. The format of the book was a reporter who's writing a book on what happened at Fantastic Land, and the whole of the story was interviews with people who were there, interviews with families, interviews with the people who own the place, things like that. Just a variety of interviews, and you start to, I don't know, it worked for me, especially in an audiobook format, but you start to kind of see why this happened, because really when you're just hearing the premise and you're like, in like a matter of 2 days there was already fatalities and stuff, and you're like, whoa, that doesn't make any sense. Why would, after only 2 days of being of dealing with this, would you be to the point where there's already people killing each other? That just doesn't make any sense. But you kind of get a sense of the buildup of why, let me tell you what was happening. Let me tell you why we started doing these things. And it was, I thought, very well done. I would definitely give this a 3.5 or 4 star. It was really good. So I recommend it. The next book that I am currently listening to, and I am not finished with, I am currently listening to The Green Mile by Stephen King. And I've never watched the movie. I've never read the book before. So I vaguely knew what it was about, just in the sense that, it was just absorbed by osmosis, if you will. Just it'd been mentioned enough times. And I knew it was about a guy named John Coffey who was put in prison to be executed for rape. That's what I knew. I didn't know anything more than that. And I think the reason why I haven't read the book up till now was because I was concerned it was going to be triggering. But the main character is actually not John Coffey. The main character is Paul Edgecombe, who runs Cell Block E, who is in charge of the executions, and it's really more through his point of view that we're doing this, his impression of John Coffey, and by his research into what happened, that's how we find out what happened, and so on. I'm really enjoying it so far. I haven't finished it, but I don't see why I wouldn't. It's really good. It's not a terribly long one. I think it was only like 13 hours or so. So it's not a terribly long book by King standards. I really enjoyed the beginning, because apparently this book was his first serial book. And I don't know if he's had other serials after this, but it was basically his experiment into the serial. And the foreword really talks about how, like, Charles Dickens and such used to do serial stories where they would just put out a chunk of the story at a time. And he was talking about how when he was younger, when he was like 12, he walked in on his mom reading an Agatha Christie book, and she was peeking at the end when she was only like 50 pages in. She had her finger stuck in the book where her place was, and then she was peeking at the end of the book. And he thought that it was funny, but also one of the things he thought that was really kind of cool about the serial idea is that the reader can't peek at the end because the end isn't published at the same time the rest of it is. I thought it was an interesting kind of peek into why he did the book the way he did it. So I am enjoying that book, and I'm running into the problem now. I'm enjoying that book so much that sometimes I'm prioritizing that book over the Read It or Delete It book that I'm supposed to be reading. It is what it is. So we'll see how far I get into the rest of it. So that is most of my the mid-month check-in, where I am with reading and stuff. I just wanted to give a mention about NaNoWriMo. For those of you who don't know, NaNoWriMo stands for National Novel Writing Month, and it's always in the month of November, where people sign up to take on the challenge of writing 50,000 words or more on a novel. And in the past, I have done this challenge successfully, cut it like 3 or 4 times now, and I have enjoyed writing in that way. This month has been challenging for a number of reasons. The beginning of the month, I was still dealing with the muscle injury that I had had, and that was making it difficult to be able to sit at my computer to write. And although I have a laptop, I don't really have a lot of great seating options where I can still reach my laptop. So I was struggling with writing enough words every day. And then I'm getting ready to go on a trip, not this weekend, but the weekend after. So preparations for the trip have kind of taken up a lot of my mental capacity, and I don't want to say that the reading is getting in the way of the writing, but I'm prioritizing the reading over the writing just because it's far less stressful to sit down and read somebody else's writing than it is to try to come up with my own. I had a book change in the middle of NaNoWriMo, which I've never done before. I ran out of ideas and motivation for the book that I had been working on, which is quite sad because I had a goal to finish this book in the year that I started it, because I traditionally have taken a long time to get through writing an entire book. But I moved on to a story that I was writing for my daughter, kind of a middle grade horror, I guess. And so anyway, I'm working on that, and the words are flowing a lot better now, but I still have all these other things that I have to get done. So it's going very slow. It's going slower than I want it to go. And I'm not taking my laptop on the vacation, so I need to push it into gear and get some writing done. So between the writing and the reading, we'll see how much more of this that I do. I do plan on reading while I'm on vacation, but I am now doubting whether I'm going to want to take the huge bucket of book slips with me. So I might just start something that I think will be a little more of a sure thing while I'm on vacation. And I don't know how much reading I'm going to do, but I do plan on doing some, so we'll see. So that is the middle of the month. That is where I'm at right now, and I hope you enjoyed the little vlog parts that I put in on this, and I hope you enjoyed listening to me talk about what I've been up to and what I've been liking. So thank you very much for coming and spending this time with me and listening to my check-in. And I hope to bring you at least another vlog, and I hope to bring you some pictures and stuff of my vacation at some point this month. And I hope to bring you some better news about NaNoWriMo. And so that's what I've got going and what I've got hopefully coming up. So thank you very much for spending this time with me, and I hope that you have a great rest of your day.